You are now watching Bleav. Do you believe?
And welcome into a brand new spanking new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. I am your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated Schuyler Callihan and former Panther running back Jonathan Stewart. You can catch us every week on the Bleav Podcast Network's new episodes coming down the pike. And in fact, after next week, you'll start getting 2 episodes a week from us. One at the beginning of the week, recapping the Panthers' previous game. One towards the end of the week, giving you a preview and catching up on any news and notes from the Panthers over the course of that week. So we are your authority for Panthers news, information, analysis, hot takes, anything you want. We got it here for you here on the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Today, we got a loaded show. As you know, the Panthers emerged victorious from Buffalo this past Friday night, but not without some injuries that happened during that game. The biggest one in particular, well, the 2 biggest ones, to Sam Darnold and kicker Zane Gonzalez. We'll get into those in just a bit and see the severity of those. Instant reactions. We'll start doing this at the beginning of each week. Of course, the Panthers had their coaches and players press conference right after practice today. Schuyler was there for those. We've pulled a couple clips from Coach Matt Rhule and PJ Walker. So we'll talk about those and give you our instant reactions. And wild predictions, league version. We're going to go around, give you our wild predictions from no Panther predictions. We won't do that until next week as we get ready for the season opener. But these will be NFL league-wide wild predictions. And both Stu and Schuyler have separately told me that they've got some off-the-chain wild predictions to throw out here. So I'm almost nervous to ask what what these guys have been thinking about in terms of this season. But before we get into all of that, let's hear a word from our main sponsor at BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BLEAV50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where our podcast starts this week is an injury update. I think we ended the podcast last week talking about how we just wanted to get through this last preseason game healthy. I think that was your thing, Stu, that you just wanted us all to get out here healthy, and it just backfired. I
shouldn't have said anything. Apparently, yeah. Must have jinxed us or something. But you don't want that to happen ever.
And it was positions that we really couldn't afford to have injuries at. It's crazy that, I don't know, 8 days ago, we had 4 quarterbacks on this roster, or maybe a little bit longer, about 10 days ago, we had 4 quarterbacks, and now we're down to 2. And it's not the 2 we thought we would have at this point, but it's the 2 we're going to go into the season with, I think. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But Schuyler, give us an update on Sam Darnold. He suffered a significant high ankle sprain in that 21-0 win over the Buffalo Bills. What have you heard in terms of severity, recovery time? Are they going to put him on IR? What have you been hearing from the team?
Yeah, well, before I do that, I will say I'll take the blame for Zane Gonzalez. I think I may have talked a little badmouth. I may have badmouthed Joey Sly a little bit on my ESPN hit last week. So it's kind of a karma coming back, but
that's what you get, man.
Oh, man, what are you doing?
But yeah, I mean, hey, Steve Smith did it too. So I mean.
That's Steve Smith, though. Steve put on a helmet and shoulder pads in a Carolina Panther form. So he can say what he
does that with everybody. So even the ones that are like in the booth with him. So
that's what I love about Steve. Is like he speaks his mind. I love it. Yeah. I love the preseason broadcast. I wish he was on the regular season too. But but as far as Sam, they're getting a second opinion. Don't know if there's any severity to it. They don't even know the grade of the sprain yet. At least if they do, they're not saying it. But it does look like it's going to be at least 4 weeks. He will not confirm. Matt Rhule won't confirm that it's 4 to 6 because it could be longer. So it's definitely a month, which if my math is correct, I think that would bring him back if it's 4 weeks for the Saints game week 3. So it's not terrible, but that's if everything goes.
We still got to make points.
Yeah.
Right.
So you said that So, but Zane is out for a much longer period of time, correct? Because I saw, I don't know if it was Vashti Hurt and Carolina Blitz that I saw it from. I think she either retweeted it or it was her video, but somebody had put like a phone down like at ground level when he was like doing the kick that caused it. And it was like right there at him. And you could see him like do the practice kick and just crumble to the ground. I've never had a severe groin injury before. Stu, have you ever had a groin injury before?
I have in college, and I didn't know I had it. The training staff probably knew, but I didn't know. So I was out there not practicing but playing games. But it's pretty painful, man. You really can't. The fast twitch muscles do not go. So,
for a kicker, especially, I would think that it just makes like life just super difficult.
Miserable, very miserable, and probably mentally too, because it's like you're obviously everything else about you is fine and everyone's like, oh, your groin hurts. Well, have you ever been kicked in the groin? So it's like it would be like the aftermath of that, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I saw as soon as we went into the locker room Friday night, I saw Zane coming out of like the shower areas, walking to his locker on crutches, and I'm like, oh man, like that's not good. Like anytime you see anybody on crutches, you immediately think the worst. So I mean, Matt didn't want to confirm anything. It's not season ending yet, but I think it's probably heading in that direction. If not, it's going to be very close. So whoever they decide to sign, whether it's Eddie Pinero or Brian Johnson or somebody else, they had those two guys in today kicking. I don't know, but it's definitely no pun intended, but a kick to you know what, because of
to the groin.
I mean, Zane Gonzalez went from bouncing around to different situations, and the Panthers had a pretty bad kicking situation a year ago trying to find one, and then the two just found a good marriage, and he made like I think 16 or 17 of his last kicks. So that's a tough loss.
Who's the I keep forgetting his name. Who's the kicker that we drafted a couple years ago, like 7th round? We cut him, and he became Kansas City's kicker.
Bucker.
What was his name?
Harrison
Buckner or something like that.
Buckner.
Yeah,
we used to call him Butt Kiss.
every time one of our kickers goes down or they get cut or we get one injured, I think back to the fact that we had like one of the top kickers. Well, he's one of the top kickers in the league now. Kicking for Kansas City after kicking 55-yarders or whatever, and we drafted him in the late round. And I think it was between him and who do we have before? Graham Gano. Yeah, I think Graham won out or something, and we ended up shipping him off to Kansas City, I believe, for something. But circling back around to Sam Darnold, of course, this was going to happen. They name a starter, so by default, Darnold's the backup. Very first game out after we named the backup, Darnold gets hurt, and of course, we haven't even made it to the regular season yet, and we're already talking about Cam Newton again. It just started popping up again in these press conferences. You probably knew it was going to happen. Like when you walked in the doors, like someone is going to ask about Cam Newton. It's not going to be me. Someone will ask about him, and it did happen. What do you guys now? You saying that he could be back Darnold by like week 3 or whatever kind of tempers that to a degree. But thoughts on.
We're back at it again
because it was asked to Matt Rhule. I didn't actually hear his answer to that, but I'm sure he answered it very platonically and just gave the right answer. What are you guys' thoughts on Cam Newton potentially coming back in a backup role, similar to how he just kind of got parachuted in last year?
I mean, the honest opinion for me is it's better than what you got right now. So
for the Panthers?
For the Panthers. I mean, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost. So that would be, the determining factor and whether or not, Cam is willing to settle in that formality. But I mean, I think obviously it's one of those subjects that you have to be careful about because people are passionate about Cam for the right reasons. I mean, you saw the effect that it took last year, during the season where there's a lot of struggle, and just him coming into the city, boosting morale of people at work. You go to Harris Teeter and people are excited just to go to work.
Yeah,
I'm ready to go to work to see the Panther edition nachos. But so you gotta tread lightly when you're talking about that subject specifically, Cam, because it gets people excited. But at the end of the day, anything's possible. And I think that's where you just gotta, leave your hat on with that. So but I mean, that's my opinion.
Let me ask that. Let me frame it in a different way. Should the Panthers bring back Cam Newton? Because I mean, we literally just did this last year, and we saw that as much as we would like to put a fairy tale ending on the Cam Newton Panthers relationship, I think that was that home run out the tunnel thing. I think that was the end of the movie, like right there.
Yeah,
and as a Panther fan and as a Cam Newton fan, I'm about 90% at the point where I'm actually hoping he just retires. Just retire and move on to the next phase of your career, because what I don't want to happen is for him to basically have to settle for roles just to be able to stay in the league for the next 2, 3, 4 years. And to me, I feel like last year was an eye-opening situation for Cam, where yes, he's back in the place he knows, the place where he's comfortable, the place he's had the most success, and over time, while he was here, he saw his role get lesser and lesser, and we didn't really see Cam complain about it in the media or anything like that. He was actually pretty reserved for Cam in terms of, after those games. I don't think he'd want to come back. Do you think?
I think he would definitely. I think last year was definitely eye-opening. I mean, anytime you bring this type of situation into play, you got a new offense, you got a new team, new players, new coaching staff. So, I mean, the idea of bringing Cam back sounds glamorous to a lot of fans. And that's why I say you got to be careful about that talk and what you say, because people start chanting it on, and then everything starts drifting away for, the actual team. You know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be about the Carolina Panthers season, not Cam Newton coming back. And the reason why I was saying it's better than what you got right now is because right now you got a lot of, you got 2 quarterbacks laid up. So, I mean, I would take a healthy Cam Newton, if that was the only option we had, you know what I'm saying? And so I wouldn't, bow my head and pout, if that was the last, determining, QB available. But I think at the end of the day, man, you got to think about Baker Mayfield. Who, if anybody, would you bring in that would be a good pair for him? Who is going to be good for Baker to vibe with in quarterback meetings, locker room buddies, out there on the field, helping him dial in, throughout the week, because a lot of the quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, they share the duties and responsibilities of watching film and taking notes and pointing certain things out about defenses, so that way they're fully prepared for Sundays. So you got to get the right guy if you're going to get someone other than PJ, to come in there and make that go.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I mean, I think if you look at the situation too, last year when they called Cam, there was an opportunity for Cam to not just take the starting job, but potentially be the starter this year. Now, that's kind of all changed, because right now, even though Matt Corral's hurt, they view him as potentially the future. Or maybe puts up a good season, he's the future. So you got 2 guys already on this roster who the Panthers think that they could, continue to build with at that quarterback spot. Does Cam want to come into a situation where he's 100% the backup and can only be that? I don't know. And plus too, what Jonathan was saying was you have to have a guy that's going to mesh well with Baker in that quarterback room. You don't want this to be turning from what was a healthy competition, a healthy friendship in that quarterback room between Sam and Baker into something that's totally different. I don't know how that would work. I mean, Stu, I mean, what do you think? Could those two types of personalities that are kind of similar in a way, could they coexist in that same room?
I don't know.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
It's just that's so much personality in one room that I don't know if it's needed.
Here's the big question too. Cam signed for what, $8 million last year?
Yeah, for not even a full season. He came in beginning of October or something like that. Or
October. $8 million to start 5 games essentially, right? Yeah. You're signing him before the season started. That price is going to be a little bit higher. I don't care what he did last year.
Plus, he didn't know the playbook at all. He's literally coming in the same way he did last year. And he said specifically last year at the end of the season that he didn't want to do that, where he just parachuted in someplace and had to play from behind day one when he's coming in. I don't know if he's really – we haven't really heard from Cam except for he did a podcast or something a couple months back, I think at the beginning of the summer. But to be honest, I haven't really seen Cam doing much of anything in terms of being out there this summer. And I'm actually kind of surprised no one picked him up to be a backup someplace. Maybe that's because he doesn't want to be a backup someplace. So maybe he sounded like he had come to terms with his career at the end of last year in that last press conference where he was kind of reflecting on stuff. It kind of sounded
I can tell you this. Cam, if Cam gets the right call, that boy is going to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and obviously I think it just the stars have to align with the right coaching staff, the right, offensive coordinator to where something that he goes in, he knows the plays, he knows kind of the terminology and the direction that the offense is going to where he can gel with. Because I know he's still working out. I mean,
so he's in shape.
That's a given. And I think also too, if he's going to retire, he's going to let people know he's going to retire.
I would imagine it'd be like a big deal. He'd put something out, some kind of episode or something. It wouldn't just be like a, I'm out.
He's controlling his own narrative in his own way, which is the reason why a lot of people don't really know. It's like, what is Cam doing?
So
does Ben McAdoo strike you as a Cam Newton type of quarterback coach? I mean, I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
not at all. Not even close.
Now it may have helped Cam to have someone.
Schuyler, I think you might have answered everyone's question.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you just nailed it right there. So everybody
you nailed us. You nailed us. All right, Panther fans, Schuyler has told us that it is not going to happen. So just chalk it up. Don't ever bring Cam's name up ever again as long as we have Ben McAdoo as our offensive coordinator.
So like in 3 weeks, we'll be out of tight ends. And people are like, I wonder if Cam could play tight end. Like, I mean, literally, like, it just feels like no matter what we do.
Greg come back. Greg Olsen come back.
Yeah, Greg.
Hey, I don't know where J-Stew's at, but if Christian gets hurt again, your name might start popping up.
Man, look, I got this goal line carry right here.
We'll make it happen. We'll put it in existence right now. Hey, Stu thinking about a cup? Nah, I ain't gonna do it.
Nah, I ain't coming back. Only way I come back is if they tell me, hey, these are the 3 plays we got. Dive over the goal line left, dive over the goal line right.
You want that Tecmo Bowl Bo Jackson play where he just gets one play.
Matt Rhule might be mad at me though, because I'm definitely sticking the ball over the goal line.
So I get we say all this and we ignore the elephant in the room that PJ Walker is now the legit number 2 quarterback of this football team, as he was the past couple of years. So we really shouldn't be like nervous because he's in the same role that he's been in for the past couple of years for the Panthers, which is a luxury that I guess we should be happy to have. A lot of teams didn't have.
But I think where we're coming from right now is it's been too long. We need to have the winning formula. There's too many. We have scouts. We've had an off season. We've developed guys. We've gotten the coaches in. We've gotten the pieces in here. We got Baker in there. So let's not go and just do a half job of creating depth. You want depth at the offensive line. You want depth over there on defense. Quarterback position sometimes just gets overlooked. Like, okay, we got our starter quarterback, and we're going to win the football game. You got to have somebody else that's going to at least step in there. I mean, for instance, say something happens to Baker where he has to retape his fingers or something. I don't know. Like, that's a pivotal moment in the game. I remember Derek Anderson had to go in there for Cam plenty of times for the 4 plays. You know what I'm saying? To keep things going and keep things going in the right direction. So you just don't want to have, if there's an opportunity to make that position, that depth stronger, you got to do it.
So we'll see how this plays out. Sam Darnold out 4 to 6 weeks, but of course we have 2 weeks before the season even begins. So a couple of weeks, and then they'll probably reevaluate Sam. I doubt they're going to put him on IR if that's the case. So unless it just isn't, healing.
High ankle sprains are.
Yeah, that's pretty.
I've had my share. I'll tell you that.
It's not like a week-long thing.
It's not. If you're not built to, it's not for the faint. Like, you legitimately, if you retweak it right when you're like, oh, I feel better. If you retweak it, you back to square one.
It looked worse than that when it happened too. So I think he kind of got off, easy with it being a high ankle sprain, and that's saying, just the severity of the injury. But
the fact that it was a 290-pound defensive lineman falling on it.
Yeah, I mean, it looked bad when it happened.
Like, Desmond, I'm telling you, you'd rather break your ankle than have a high ankle sprain.
Man, so 4 to 6 weeks is being generous. It sounds like
generous. You really a 3 month. If you just rehab him for 3 months, then you'll be fully recovered.
Wow. So we're talking almost the whole season.
I mean, if he comes back, he's going to be dealing with it. I can tell you that. So.
And of course, in a perfect world, Baker never gets hurt, and this never really comes into play. And Baker plays well during the season, so we'll see how that goes. Instant reactions. Coach Matt Rhule spoke to the media today. Schuyler was out there at Panther practice, so he heard some of this here. I pulled 2 clips from Matt Rhule, one on Robbie Anderson, because I'm starting to wonder if Robbie is in danger of losing his spot in terms of just production. And I know that they've been talking about him. Terrence Marshall needs to get out there because he's been dinged up. He hadn't really got a lot of reps. Meanwhile, Shi Smith is out here showing out in preseason, and Rhule has had very high compliments for Smith. He almost talks about him as if he's trying to figure out a way to get him in the starting lineup. Here's Coach Rhule's comments on Robbie Anderson.
I think Robbie, Robbie, we're just trying to make sure that we identify the things that he does really well within this offense that we can accentuate with him. Everyone knows Robbie, can catch the deep ball. But I think the things Robbie is, you go back and study him 2 years ago, caught a lot of balls across the middle, a lot of catch and runs, catches with his hands. And so what you don't want is coach to start putting a vision on a guy, he's a deep ball. Robbie can catch the ball all over the field, in the middle of the field. So I think building that chemistry with Baker and building that trust with Ben. I think that's what it comes down to. Ben's going to call the plays. He's going to put guys in positions. What I like about what we're doing on offense right now is if you watch the games, it's not all going through one person. I know it's a preseason, but the ball seems to be getting to everybody. And so, on one side, people will say, like, hey, how come there's not one tight end with 8 catches? But I like seeing Sully get a catch and Tommy have a catch or 2. I like seeing the ball spread out. So, but I'm looking for that from Robbie. I'm looking for Robbie to really cement himself in some key roles in the passing game.
Thoughts on he didn't really say much anything, really, to be honest. I'll just put that out there. He didn't really say, yes, I'm a Robbie Anderson guy. He didn't really throw him on the bus either. He just kind of gave the coach talk. Yeah, Robbie's out there, he's doing some things. He catches the ball with his hands. Like, I mean, what? So, like,
I think that was the generic version of he hasn't seen Robbie practice in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think, as a head coach going into a season, got to make a lot of decisions coming here shortly. I think that was more so maybe even a challenge publicly, letting, some guys know, there's some spots open.
I know he got a contract extension.
Yeah.
Last year, before the season.
Last year.
In no way guarantees you a starting role, Robbie Anderson. So I guess my question to both of you would be, how confident in you that Robbie Anderson's going to be able to hold on to that starting position? Because there does seem to be a couple of wide receivers. DJ Moore's fine, but there seems to be a couple. Rashard Higgins has a thing with Baker Mayfield. They played at Cleveland together. And then Shi Smith, like I said, Rhule kind of went out of his way to kind of say that they're trying to figure out a place to put him, or he basically said he's going to make the roster. From what I'm hearing, from if you read between the lines, he talked about him punt returning, getting him extra reps, kickoff return, stuff like that, because they needed somebody back there to do that. And he's getting a lot of reps at wide receiver. Schuyler, you've been to a lot of these press conferences where Shi Smith's name has been brought up. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think Shi Smith has a shot to maybe supplant Robbie Anderson in the starting lineup sometime here?
Oh, yeah, he definitely does. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon, but I think at some point throughout the season, if Robbie is kind of what he was again last year, yeah, they're going to shuffle some things up. I mean, Terrace Marshall hasn't practiced much either. I mean, he's been banged up a bunch too, and there's some talk that maybe he could be a surprise cut, Terrace Marshall. I don't know if we'll actually see that, but it's got to get to a point for Robbie where, and I hate to really criticize guys because I don't know their situations. I don't know how they view everything, but to me, Robbie seems like a guy that's not fully committed to it, and I don't know if that's true or if that's just always been Robbie, if that's his way of doing things. But I mean, this is a guy that for the second straight offseason did not come in for OTAs. And again, it's not mandatory, but when you have a new quarterback and a new offense, I would want to be there, right? I mean, I would want to get there to learn the quarterback, learn the offense, take those actual live reps, because everyone knows you can sit there and study playbook all you want, but until you actually go out there and do those actual reps, train your muscles to do those certain things, you're really not going to be accustomed to it. So it's like he's always trying to play catch up, and then he gets to, fall camp, and now he's dealing with another injury or two, and he's missing more time. So it's like by the time he gets to week one, is he even going to be ready mentally to be able to be what Robbie needs to be? I don't know.
Those are all good points. I mean, I feel like he's behind the 8 ball right now, and he honestly, he had that one good year with us with Teddy at quarterback. And looking back on it, yeah, he went over 1,000 yards, but Teddy was dinking and dunking like the whole year. He didn't really – that was actually one of our complaints, that he never really went deep. And he relied a lot on those underneath, just everything break down, just throw it 5 yards out, get it to the running back, just get it to the running back. So his completion percentage was like 68% or something nuts like that. But his touchdowns were low. Robbie was a huge benefactor of Teddy Bridgewater being here. But then, following year, Sam Darnold here, they had played together, with the Jets. And we didn't see that chemistry or whatever those first 3 games. And then Robbie just kind of faded throughout the year. I think he only had like 500-some yards receiving last year. It's not a guarantee he'll be there. I'm actually kind of looking for someone else that has like a bigger chip on their shoulder on that other side. Like, I'm not worried about DJ Moore at all. To me, DJ Moore's proven, I feel like he's a top 10, top 12 wide receiver in the league right now. 3 straight 1,100-yard seasons. Considering the quarterbacks he's had throwing to him in those 3 seasons, I think that's a super accomplishment for him. Kudos to the Panthers for securing that bag before the wide receiver salaries exploded like 2 months later, because they got TJ on a steal. They got that dude on a steal.
It balances out there because of Robbie's contract before, when you gave him all that money.
Yeah.
And I still think that's one of the worst deals that Scott Fitterer did since he's been here. I mean, he hasn't made very many bad ones, but is giving him that extension with him still under contract for a year before ever playing a snap with the new quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah. And they seem like they've stopped doing that because they were in the habit of doing that a lot. It felt like in the first year of Matt Rhule, where there was extending guys without, getting reason to extend them. But I just thought it was interesting that, somebody asked about Robbie Anderson, and that was kind of the answer that Coach Rhule gave. It wasn't really a vote of confidence at all when you listen to it, but keep an eye on that situation, because I think a lot of people have Robbie and DJ penciled in as day one starters. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case. We might see, 1 o'clock Sunday. Yeah, it could be Shi Smith in that spot instead of Robbie. Robbie might be number 3. Like, it would not be a surprise if it happens. So Panther fans, keep an eye on that. Matt Rhule was also asked about the defensive side, and one of our favorite players here on the Bleav in Panther podcast, going into his third season, safety Jeremy Chen.
Well, I think Jeremy, he's a difference maker on our defense. Physical presence. You saw in the game there, next runs pop. He's kind of that eraser. When the ball does pop, he's going to go down and make tackles. He's versatile. You can blitz him. He can play man. He played him at linebacker the first year. So I think there's so many different things that he can do. But I also think he has an edge to him. Like, I know he comes over here, he smiles, but he's got a little bit of an edge to him as a player. He likes to be physical. He likes to play the game. And so I think he just fits right in kind of with that cast of guys we have on defense.
Thoughts on Jeremy Chinn? Exploded as a rookie. Many people thought he might have been the steal of that draft where the Panthers drafted him. I Bleav it was a second round, Schuyler, that they got him? Second round?
Yeah,
at Southern Illinois. Not a lot of people really knew about him at the time. He made a name for himself that rookie year. I still say he should have been rookie of the year instead of Chase Young, just based off of what he contributed to that defense that season. And then last year was a key player on a Panther defense that finished second overall in yards allowed. Guys, thoughts on Jeremy Chinn and what he can do in year 3 to become not just one of the Panthers' best players, but one of the best defensive players in the league? Stu, I'll let you go first.
From the jump draft, once his name went across the screen, I remember it because I was watching the draft and I immediately looked him up. And when I look people up, I go straight to YouTube and just look up some highlights and whatnot. And I saw maybe like 30 seconds. And I was like, oh yeah, my man bringing in a hat. But just his ball awareness, man. Just always being around the ball. Luke Kuechly, it was a guy that was always around the ball. He knew where he should be to make a play. And good defensive players, especially in the secondary, Ed Reed, he's always in the vicinity of a ball just popping loose and him grabbing it or being in the right position to, jump a route for an interception and taking it to the house. How many touchdowns does he have? 2 maybe?
Yeah, actually, didn't he have a game? Didn't he have a game last year? He had 2 in one game.
It was his rookie year against Minnesota. He had the fumble recovery, and then was it another fumble? Did he have 2 fumbles?
It might have been 2 fumbles.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
strip recovery touchdown. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
So you got a guy like that that's just making plays out the gate. That's an instinct thing. He's born and gifted with that. Now, what great defensive players do is they elevate the play of the players around them. And so I feel like that's what he does. And I feel like that's what he's getting used to in communication, to his peers, and I think really, the sky's the limit for him, and if he gets the help, in front that he needs, he'll be able to play even more free.
Schuyler, talk about the way this defense has been built, because the literally top priority when Matt Rhule came in, it felt like they cleaned the entire defense out. With Luke Kuechly, of course, retiring, it basically cleared the slate. The only person that's really left is Shaq Thompson at this point. There's a lot of youth. A lot of draft choices have been used on the defense the past couple of years. Chen, of course, being one of the crown jewels of those draft picks. But to me, the secondary is the strongest unit on this Panther team in terms of what they've done in the offseason and what they've been able to hold on to. Dante Jackson re-signing back to the secondary, picking up Xavier Woods for that other safety spot, I think is a huge pickup for them that no one's really talking about when it comes to the Panthers. So now you can put Chen and Woods at safety. You got Dante Jackson, J.C. Horn, who I think some people forgot we drafted last year in the first round. It's almost like getting a second first-round pick this year. He was showing signs of a shutdown corner those 3 games that he played. You've got him on one side, Dante Jackson on the other, and you got C.J. Henderson, who you traded for in the middle of the season last year, who's a top 10 pick for Miami in the 2020 season. That'll probably be out there too, because if I'm not mistaken, the defense kind of plays with 5 defensive backs, 2 linebackers, almost like a nickel type of formation for that back 7. Schuyler, your thoughts on this defense, how it's been built, and can the defense help this team make the playoffs?
They're going to have to. That's pretty much the one way they're going to get there. because they're not going to outscore people. I mean, this will be an improved offense because of the O-line changes that they made, getting Baker, so on and so forth. But this offense still isn't constructed to match scores with Buffalo, or New Orleans or Tampa Bay, teams like that, the upper echelon offenses in the league. So if they play good defense and they can control the clock for the most part, and I think eliminate the turnovers, which was a big thing last year. And then, two, defensively, one of the big things Phil Snow's been harping on is actually creating the turnovers, because even though they were good defense last year, really didn't create enough turnovers, and they were just god awful in the red zone. Now, part of that might just be from getting bad field position because of the offense, but those are some areas that they want to get better at. I do think this is still probably a top 10 defense. I think they take a step back. The only reason I say that is because two things. You don't have Hassan Reddick anymore, so you got to find a replacement for him. I don't know if I've seen enough from Yetur Gross-Matos or Marquise Haynes or anybody like that can bring a similar or even a half-foot similar presence that Hassan Reddick had off the edge. If they don't have that presence on the opposite side of Burns, guess what teams are going to start doing to Brian Burns? They're going to start double teaming him, chipping him, throwing tight ends as well. Like, he's going to get so much attention, and it's going to really kind of just bottle up the Panthers' pass rush. Number two, this team really struggled in terms of stopping the run last year, especially the wide zone. Looks like that's still a problem this year. Against Buffalo on Friday night, their twos were just pushing the Panthers' ones around in some instances. And I know you're going to have that. They're pros too, but it's not been promising. So I think that the defense has to get better in the run game. They've got to find somebody else. Maybe it's off the waiver wire to help bring that pressure. But outside of that, I think it's a fairly good defense.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because you talk about the Panthers' run defense. I don't think the average Panther fan truly understands how much Luke Kuechly covered in the run game. Like, it's insane when you watch like what he was doing. Like, he would arrive at the spot in the backfield where the running back is supposed to go before the running back's even gotten. Like, he's waiting on him. Like, when he gets there, it's just, you see, like he would run through the line and meet you like at this vector point, like in his mind, like he just knew that's where you were going to be. I've never known a linebacker to watch film like Luke Kuechly does. Like, like a coach. Like, he literally, I'm surprised he has not been approached to be a defensive coordinator yet at this point, or maybe he has, and we just haven't heard about it. I'm pretty sure he has. Panthers, go talk to this dude. But like, he was, ever since he left, the run defense has been kind of so. Yeah, leaky. Like that, you can run up the middle. You can run up the middle in the Panthers, which is strange because our first pick under the Matt Rhule era was Derek Brown, who by all accounts has had a pretty good start to his pro career. But I would think that they're probably looking for a little bit more from a top 10 overall pick in Derek Brown. You don't really hear his name called that much on Sundays, at least towards the end of last year. That is a key point, though. They've got to stop it. If they can't stop the run, they're not going to be able to stop much of anything, no matter who they're playing.
The biggest thing is we got to be able to score. The offense has to score. You know what I'm saying? Because no field goals. Because once you, as an offense, put your team in a situation where your opponent has a lead, they're going to run the ball. So when you run the ball, it's taxing on a defense. So yeah, we struggled in that department last year, but I also feel like, the team obviously knows that, since we know that. So hopefully they go in there with Baker and say, hey, we need you to throw those touchdowns. We need you to make those tight throws and be accurate and make the right decision. When we get in red zone, no field goals. So
even though it wasn't,
huh?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Jim Tressel or Ohio State. He always had this really good mindset of the boa constrictor, where you just get a lead on the team in the second half, and if you play good defense and just run the ball, you're going to win. You're going to slowly just kill that other team because, like J-Stew said, you get a lead, run the ball, tire that defense out. It's going to keep milking that clock, and if you're ahead, you're going to be behind.
I mean, and that applies to all levels of football. It can be Pop Warner. It could be I called a high school football game and on the other side of Raleigh Friday night, and the team that won, I won't go into the names of the teams or whatever. The team that won had 47 points at halftime, so it was a running clock going into the third quarter.
Who was this? Blast them!
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I do play-by-play for East Forsyth here in North Carolina, and they were playing Rolesville. So these are two top teams in North Carolina, like ranked number 2, number 3, like collectively between them. And East went on the road and just dumped out 36 points in the second quarter, and it went to a running clock. And when it went to the running clock in the second half, literally the plan was run the ball, don't let them do anything, and just, I mean, it's a running clock. Literally the second half in real time took like 18 minutes, like literally, because the running clock doesn't stop for injury, timeout.
Yeah.
When you score, like it's just running. So like we're sitting there calling the game. I look up, there's like 3 minutes left in the third quarter. I'm like, what? No, we just started. What's going on? Like the refs were like,
so I have in my brain, I'm trying to picture this. Were they the same size? Same size team.
Yeah, dude. Rolesville was like the number 2 team in the whole East or something like that. East came in as the number 2 team in the Western region. And
who's putting these rankings together then?
These are from Max Preps. So
you need to recheck that. That's a little fabricated right there.
They adjusted the rankings. They didn't even wait till Monday. Like they got to Sunday morning. Like we need to
be out the top 25.
So, but my point being, once you get up on somebody like that, stop the run the ball. Like it never changes. It doesn't matter what level of football you're playing. And the Panthers, to Schuyler's point, couldn't stop the run at key points last year, and it kind of made games that they probably could have won into games that they were either chasing at the very end or a game you look back on, like that Minnesota game we were just talking about 2 years ago. I think they lost that game, didn't they? Even though they had the two, they had the two turnovers by Chen, we still lost.
They were up, and then Minnesota came back at the end. I can't remember exactly what happened, but they won like right at the end. But I mean, like Phil Snow said a couple of times last year when we talked to him during the week, and he alluded to it, like if a team has an opportunity to run the ball 40 times a game, they're going to do it. As much as a passing league as it is, just because if you put the ball in the air, there's more risk that you're going to turn the ball over. I mean, you can still fumble it, but the odds are just completely different.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, it's all true, and I prefer the teams that are run first, like the ones that's the basis of their offense, and you build your passing game off your run game, as opposed to a lot of teams now that they've fallen in love with the pass game, and then when weather happens or something happens to that quarterback's hand or you're missing the key wide receiver, they can't do anything because they're not used to running the football. Like, so they just become one-dimensional. We've seen Kansas City, that happened to them a couple of times, and there's been zero reason for that to happen to them, but they usually figure it out by the end of the year. I'm going to go past I had a clip for PJ Walker as well, but we already talked about him early in the podcast, and I'm seeing the time here. I want to get to our wild predictions because you guys teased this to me like almost under an hour ago that both y'all were going to come with some heat on this. So I'm going to let you guys – we're going to do it clockwise. So I'm going to start off with you, Schuyler, then we'll hit J-Stew, and then we'll go back around one more time. Wild predictions, NFL version. No Carolina Panther predictions in this. We'll do that next week specifically. But for this, all divisions, everybody, this is it. So, Schuyler, give me your wild prediction for the 2022 NFL season, your first one here.
All right.
I'm almost nervous to ask.
We're doing two, right? We're going one at a time? All right.
Yeah.
I'll save my juicier one for last. So, my first one is going to be the Denver Broncos finish dead last in the AFC West and do so by at least 2 games.
Ooh.
I think the Chargers, the Raiders, the Chiefs are all much better. And I do not buy the Russell Wilson hype, and I don't think that he's the Mr. Fix-It-All to that team. You look at what he had in Seattle last year. I mean, he had DK Metcalf, he had Chris Carson, he had Tyler Lockett. Like, he had options. He obviously didn't have an offensive line, but there's not much of a difference between the Seattle and Denver rosters. And I don't see how Russell Wilson is going to come in and just be like what Peyton Manning did and bring them to the Super Bowl. I just don't see it, especially with the toughest division in football. No, Denver Broncos dead last.
That Denver team, when Peyton Manning parachuted in, they already had everything but a quarterback, pretty much. They had a top-ranked defense. They had Demaryius Thomas and like skill position players and a good offensive line. You drop in somebody like Peyton Manning into that, I mean, they were bound to do something, and they ended up breaking a bunch of records and then ended up winning a Super Bowl. I'm scared to ask, Stu, what you got, man?
Don't be scared, man.
Because when you said it earlier before we started, it felt like you've been thinking about this before I even brought it up. Like you had like the whole weekend to kind of just sit around. I was like, you know what? I think this is gonna happen this year. What you got?
Man, look, Tampa Bay Buccaneers gonna be last in the division.
Oh, you stole mine. You stole mine.
Oh, okay. That might just top my notes.
I'll just piggyback on it because that was one of mine. Tampa Bay will miss the playoffs. Like I was one of mine.
It ain't gonna be so sweet. I mean, I feel like the vibe over there right now is just too shaky. Like you got your veteran Hall of Fame, all time best football player ever to walk the earth, dipping in and out of practice. It's not a good vibe over there right now. This is not the old Tom Brady right now. That's just what I see from far away.
Something going on. Something going on. Yeah, I don't know what.
I think, it starts from up top. I think, going into this offseason, I feel like I was shaky, with the coaching change. And then all of a sudden he's still in the building. And if I'm a player, I'm out there at practice and I'm looking at the gate where everybody comes in for practice and I'm looking for Tom to show up. That's doing something to my spirits. So, he's at camp now. I'm pretty sure everything's running really nice, but I think it's all false. I think they're going to end up dead last.
You didn't touch on the personnel issues they're having. Like, he's not going to have Chris Godwin. He's not going to have Gronk.
Nope.
He's missing his entire interior of his offensive line. And
offensive line looking like our offensive line last year.
If we put Tom Brady behind that offensive line, Tom Brady would not be coming back to play at age 45.
That might have been the reason why he checked out.
I think so. I really think it was like, he had this planned or whatever. Like, this was already there. Who plans a 10-day vacation in the middle of training camp? Like,
unusual. Like, I mean, I know it's Tom Brady, but come on.
It's like it just didn't make any sense. I think he was like,
he went to go get a steel plate in his rib. That's what he went and did.
Like, please help me. I got a situation at work. But no, I think he seriously was like, hey, let me reevaluate this. I don't want to say I'm not coming back, but I need some time away to figure out if I really need to do this. He went away for 2 weeks, came back. He's like, okay, like I said last week, he made the commitment. I guess I need to show up and play. But I wrote it down. Tampa Bay will miss the playoffs. I'll just add to that. So for my first one, Tom Brady will have his worst season of his career this year, because I don't see one of the things, going back to that high school football game I was talking about. That team had the number one wide receiver in the state of North Carolina. He's committed to Ohio State, but he was a non-factor in that game because you can take a wide receiver out of a game if the quarterback can't get him the football. And that's literally what was happening. Like, the quarterback was running for his life. Like, he had like literally 2 seconds to kind of figure out, and then they just started coming at him. And
that's a great comparison right there. That is a great comparison.
It just, you can't, it don't really matter if the quarterback's sitting on his behind in the backfield. It don't matter who you got at wide receiver. So I feel like the way Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were kind of built the same way in terms of they're not scramblers. They're not going to bootleg out and do all this stuff.
Who do you think's faster,
Peyton Manning or Tom Brady?
Yeah.
At
the age of 37, who was faster?
Oh my gosh. That would be an interesting race. Like they could, you remember how they used to do the ABC, the NFL joints they would have in the off seasons, like NFL Fastest Man and stuff. Yeah. If they had, I bet Darryl Green could beat both those dudes still right now. Darryl Green, he's got to be 60 something, but he probably could still beat him. I think I'd go with Tom. I think that don't even sound right.
I feel like Tom's faster.
I don't know. I feel like they'd be like shoving each other like the whole way down. Like, oh man! But no, but no, I feel like the interior of that offensive line is going to rattle Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a creature of repetition, and I think Peyton Manning was the same way. You got the same center, you got your same wide receivers. He doesn't have Gronk. He doesn't have the security blanket. He's missing dudes. And
Gronk can come back.
Yeah, he can come back. Matter of fact, we kind of expect him to about, let's say probably about after week 7, week 8. He might get that phone call. Like, come on in.
Or just after training camp. Training camp's over.
Just show up week 1 with 2 touchdowns, 200 yards. That'd be Gronk. Yeah. But no, I just feel like Tom Brady's going to regret coming back for this season. He should have finished 2020, to be honest. Walked off in the sunset after that 7th ring. That he has nothing left to prove. There's nothing left. He owns all the records, doesn't he? Or he's close to pretty much all of them. I don't understand having the mentality of I'm going to retire and then changing it 40 days later. My mentality would have been, if I'm already thinking about retirement in my mind, I've retired. Like there's not I'm going to change my mind and come back like Michael Jordan type stuff. It's just your body just changes, your mentality changes. So for him to be, if he could pull this off, then there's no way I can't call him a GOAT. I mean, he's right there right now. But it's going to be a long season for Mr. Thomas Brady. Schuyler, real quick, your second wild prediction for the 2022 NFL season.
The Detroit Lions will make the playoffs.
Oh, you've been watching Hard Knocks, haven't you? You've been watching Hard Knocks. They get you every year. Every year, Hard Knocks makes you think that team is going to do something.
I love Dan Campbell. I don't know why, but I just love the energy. I feel like the players can actually relate to him. They respect him. And I tell you what, and I probably said this a couple times on the show, Jared Goff is not a complete bum. Like, he's a decent quarterback. He's not – I know we're on a Panthers podcast, but he's not Sam Darnold. Like, he's better than Sam Darnold. He's played in the Super Bowl before, even though he had a great defense. They've got some pieces around him now.
He's signed a $100 million contract. I mean, he's not a scrub by any means. They just wanted to upgrade from him to get him, and they proved themselves right in LA. But
I'm not saying they're going to make the Super Bowl or anything, but I think they sneak in there. I think they do.
NFC North, actually, that ain't bad because I can't figure out who's going to win that division because Aaron Rodgers can't throw the ball to himself, and I don't think he might try. Who knows? He might have to because I don't know who he's going to throw the football to.
You better.
And then Chicago, keeping an eye on them. Justin Fields it's been preseason, granted, but Justin Fields looks
Bears are so bad, man. The Bears are so bad.
I don't think Fields has the factor.
Yeah.
Justin Fields does not have the factor. Like, he has the tools, he has the size, but he don't have it here. I look at him and I look at his face and I don't trust him.
Yeah. And Chicago, who's the greatest quarterback in Chicago Bears history? Jim McMahon? I mean, it's kind of like where quarterbacks go to their careers in. Like, I can't think of another quarterback that's been successful in Chicago. Like, I'm 44. I can't think of
Grossman.
Yeah, I was just about to say Grossman, Cutler. That's not the ones that come to mind.
Jay Cutler.
I mean, you're talking like at least with Jim McMahon, he was like cool. You know what I mean?
Matt Forte.
Well, he was the
running back. Yeah, he wasn't the quarterback, but he was the running back.
We can go back to like Sid Luckman, like way back in like the 40s or whatever, when still Soldier Field, the same building sitting there. But George Halas walking around. Like, I'm trying to think of a quarterback that's flourished.
Did Devin Hester throw a touchdown?
He might have, actually. He did everything else for him. He might have. Give me your second wild prediction for the NFL season for 2022, Stu.
All right, this is kind of like a puzzle piece a little bit. So, Houston Texans will win their division.
Okay.
The Tennessee Titans and Malik, what is that? Willis?
Yeah.
Malik Willis. Malik Willis will be the starter by week 8.
Okay.
Somewhere around whenever they play the Chiefs and they get destroyed. Because I feel like at this point, man, Derrick Henry is the king. And we just got done talking about running the ball and whatnot. If they don't get that engine going this year, if he's not the top rusher this year in the NFL, or if he's banged up, Tannehill ain't got it. But the way that the Texans have, played during the preseason, they got Lovie Smith there. I think that's, an opportunity for him to revamp his career. And I think, players, the players for him, know who he is and know what he represents and whatnot. So I just feel like the Texans will win the division.
I was close. I was close to putting them over the Lions, but
wow.
Yeah.
I like Davis Mills. I think he's a decent quarterback.
Davis Mills is a really good quarterback. And I like that running back too from
Damian
from University of Florida. Yeah. Damian, he gonna be nice. Brian Robinson Jr., man, I'm glad that he's not in critical condition. The running back from Alabama for the Commanders. I like the way I like both of them. They run strong, physical, but not just not strong and physical, but they really got that wiggle to them. So I was definitely, looking at the Texans. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I agree with the Derrick Henry sentiment because usually those top rushers, it's not like you're a top rusher for 10 years, like over top of the league. Usually it's like a 3-4 year window where you're just like a peak. Yeah. And we're kind of hitting that year 3, year 4 of Derrick Henry. And we saw him get hurt last year and miss a lot of the years. So that'll be something to keep an eye on with them.
I got one more hot take though.
Oh, hit me real quick then.
I know we ain't supposed to talk about these Panthers.
Oh, oh no.
But let me go ahead and just give it to you. Saquon, Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey. I played with both of those cats, right? These are two of the most gifted individuals I've ever seen touch the ball as a running back that I've seen ever. And they've been forgotten for the last couple of years because they've been hurt. Those two will be 1 and 2 top rushers this year. So I feel like we're gonna be able to run the ball this year.
Yeah,
more than people thought we would be. And so those are my 2 hot takes, my 3 hot takes, I guess. But I just had to get that off my chest.
You didn't want to wait till next week on that Panther one. You had to get that one in there.
Yeah, but I got other things. I got other things I gotta say next week.
We'll out. I agree with that. I've got some McCaffrey takes for next week.
Keep going.
I kind of got a hybrid one too. Usually when 2 teams make the Super Bowl, the next year one of them inevitably has like that Super Bowl hangover or whatever. And I'm not really seeing people pick that with the 2 teams that made it this past year. It's going to be Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not going to make the playoffs this year. I don't buy. I've been an NFL fan as long as I can remember. I don't buy the Cincinnati Bengals being a top shelf organization to be able to go back to back. Just their track record. Like I don't buy even the Ocho Cinco, Marvin Lewis years where they were
that's so long ago. It's 2022, man.
I'm just saying, even in those years when they actually were like not contenders, but like they could win a football game, they never really did it like back to back, and yes, they got Joe Burrow.
I'll tell you this. If they got an offensive line for Joe,
I don't know. Did they fix the offensive line in the offseason?
Oh, yeah.
Did they?
They did.
It's still Cincinnati. I feel the same way about the Browns. Like, I don't care how much
talent like Cincinnati. You just don't like orange and black.
Probably, I think maybe it's just Ohio or something. I don't know, but like,
we talked about Ohio earlier too.
Yeah, we're just dogging on Ohio.
Man, laws live up in Ohio, but yeah, my wife's over on the side of the plate. But no, like I feel like they're bound to bingle. They're going to bingle eventually. Something is going to happen in the division they're in. Baltimore's going to bounce back. Half their team was on IR last year, and people kind of forget that. Lamar's entering his peak, and Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record as Steelers head coach. Like, I'm definitely not picking against that dude. So
that was the one thing I was going to say, but I was like, it's really not a bold take because of the roster, but I think this is the first year that,
what, the Tomlin finishes below 500?
I think so, yeah.
They almost did last year, didn't they? He pulled it out right there at the end.
Watt's banged up right now. That could be a serious thing. That defense, look, they could sack anybody. And me and my buddy talked about this the other day. They could have 50 sacks this year, but that doesn't mean that they can't tackle. Like, that secondary is not good. Like, Micah Fitzpatrick's decent, But man, that secondary got burned a lot last year. Outside
Who's
of
still there? Joe Hayden?
Is he?
I don't even know if he's there. Actually,
I don't know. I don't know if Joe Hayden's still. Check real quick. But it's just hard to pick against him. Yes. No, actually, 2 hours ago, Joe Hayden calls report of having no interest in Steelers reunion communication fake news. So apparently he's not with them, but is he with anybody?
No.
He doesn't have it. I don't see.
I'm trying to imagine the secondary for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, and that's the only jersey that came across my brain.
He's a free agent. He's still a free. Well, as far as I can tell, he's still a free agent. So that's weird.
Yeah,
that's weird.
So this could be Tomlin's down year.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Might be.
Yeah. I mean,
hell of a coach.
I didn't even get to the Patriots because I don't think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs either. Like, there's nothing about the Patriots that's intriguing to me.
They're the most stale team in the NFL.
It's like it's gonna roll 11 dudes out there and just see what happens.
You know something? They're gonna end up having 10 wins this year. Watch.
Right, exactly. They're gonna win every game by like 3 points.
by sack by I don't even know. Like
Mac Jones is gonna throw for like 130 yards and like a touchdown and 2 picks. They're still gonna win the game. Everyone's gonna be looking around like, how are they doing this? It's witchcraft. It's magic. I know Schuyler's got to get out of here. I know Stu got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. You guys have been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. We'll get you those Panther predictions, wild predictions for the upcoming season. We'll get you ready for week 1 because by the time you see us again, it'll be game week. We'll be getting ready for the September 11th kickoff against the Browns at Bank of America Stadium. I'm thinking I might try to get down to Charlotte and maybe try to get in there and see that. So we'll see. We'll get all that plus any news and notes that happen between now and next Monday. We'll hit you with that as well. Make sure you check us out on the Bleav Podcast Network. Follow Bleav at Bleav on Twitter. For Jonathan Stewart, for Schuyler Callihan, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been listening and watching to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Keep pounding.